Thomas Hickey's one of my players who's, played at the edge, grew up in Calgary, was a top draft pick, but he found his way in the NHL. And we talked about $1 million plays. He made little $1 million plays all over the ice. And he talks about it now. He's the New York Islanders, play-by-play guy. And, coming around the net, snap to the wall, $1 million play. That winger, getting it out under heavy forecheck, that's $1 million play. And if you can keep doing it, Shea Weber always used to say, Josh Georges, those guys, they used to say, you can make a 10-foot pass 10 out of 10 times, you can play in the NHL. Not 9 times. 9 times you can't. Not 9.5. It's 10 out of 10 every time.
That was NHL player agent Jarrett Bousquet of Titan Sports Management, and you are listening to the Up My Hockey podcast with Jason Podollan. Just watch me now. Welcome to Up My Hockey with Jason Podollan, where we deconstruct the NHL journey, discuss what it takes to make it, and have a few laughs along the way. I'm your host, Jason Podollan, a 31st overall draft pick who played 41 NHL games, but thought he was destined for 1,000. Learn from my story and those of my guests. This is a hockey podcast about reaching your potential. Hello there, and welcome back, or welcome to the Up My Hockey podcast with Jason Podollan. I am your host, Jason Podollan, and you're here for episode 130. Episode 130. Kind of an exciting landmark there to hit the 130s. And today you are going to be listening to Jarrett Bousquet of the Titan Sports Management Group, co-founder along with Kevin Epp, NHL player agent, representing the likes of Lars Eller, Jacob Silverberg, Andrei Burakovsky, Ryan Reeves. They've represented Shea Weber, Scott Niedermayer, Rob Niedermayer. Been in business a long time now. Have, I believe, under 35 NHL players under contract, based primarily out of Western Canada and Western United States. And they are recruiting the next group of stars and have people in their stable currently, like the Wonder Boy, Mr. DuPont. Landon DuPont is a client of theirs. I guess you can't technically say client because until they sign a contract, they are not technically clients officially with the younger generation. But they're always looking for the next greatest, shiniest thing. We talk about that actually in this episode about how they recruit players, where they look and what they look for, which is quite interesting. And we talk about a lot of fun stuff that I think you're going to love this episode. Jared was really gracious with his time and with the range of topics that we covered, not the least of which, the mental side of what they do and what they help players with, and what an important aspect of the game that is turning out to be, which we all know if you are a listener of my podcast. My belief in mindset and the mental toughness side of the game is, it is imperative to reach high levels, and it is imperative to reach your peak potential and your peak performance. So we do talk about that. We talk about $1 million plays, which is really cool. I'm not going to tell you what that's all about, but we talk about Darren Helm and the Detroit Red Wings, and there's lots of stuff that we cover here that is really juicy and lots of takeaways for you listeners out there. So it's awesome. We get into a little bit about how Jared and I came into contact for this episode, which was on the heels of a lunch that I had with an old teammate, or a group of old teammates from the Spokane Chief days. I met Sean Byrne. He was a tough guy back with us in the Spokane days. Jeremy Stasiuk, who was a line mate of mine for a couple seasons, and also Scott Townsend was there, and who is actually, I think, the team dentist for the Calgary Flames now. And I was in Calgary this past weekend, and we were able to all get together for a lunch, and it was just one of those absolute feel-good moments for me. And we, of course, walked down memory lane, and we had a lot of laughs and shared a lot of stories, and it really kind of exemplified for me what hockey has turned into and what it can be. And that is like the value of teammates and the value of the relationships. And it is something that I talk on here a lot about, and we do talk about that in the discussion with Jarrett, just the value of that, and how after all these years, 30 years later from playing with these guys, that we can sit around a table and go right back to that time in our lives as late teens, and in riding the buses and having the laughs and sharing the stories. And there's just such a connection there that just does not go away. So you younger players out there, don't make it a solo mission. I know there is a desire, right, to be better, to be dedicated and to be consistent and to do all these things that you feel like maybe you're on your own, you're doing it by yourself, but make sure that you include your teammates in your own journey, because that is really the special piece that stays with you regardless of where your career ends up taking you. If you do the game right and if you treat your teammates right, that is something that will be with you 30 years from now. And I was really happy to be with those guys. But I do digress a little bit there. In this lunch, Scott Townsend is friends with Jarrett Bousquet, and his name came up and what he's doing now. And I remembered that name from back in the junior days when he played with the Blazers. And I was like, well, geez, that would be a great guest to have on if he's willing to chat about Titan and about what the agent business looks like right now. And I think that my audience would really love that discussion. And so there we are 3 days later. Jarrett is super easy to get a hold of and very accommodating with his time. And we got it on the docket, and here it is for you. So love hockey. I can't say that enough. I'm so grateful for what it is that I get to do now, and helping players with their mindset and reaching their goals and dreams, and just the ability that hockey has given me to have these relationships like the ones that I was just able to revisit over the weekend. Fantastic stuff. Hockey is a great game, and it can teach us great things, and it can bring some great people into our lives. So for all of you out there who are still playing it or are still involved in it, use that gratitude muscle and flex it every time you get to step on the ice, because it's a pretty special sport that we get to play. So without further ado, I bring you my conversation with Jarrett Bousquet from Titan Sports Management, and I think you're going to enjoy this one. All right, welcome to the podcast, NHL agent with Titan Sports Management and ex-Blazer, Mr. Jarrett Bousquet.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Hey man, it's so fun. Time. Yeah, it's so fun. Like, and I'll just give a little precursor to those listening. Like, I was in Calgary for one of my boys' showcases, right? So he's in the CSSHL out here in Western Canada, the U15 Prep League. And in doing that, I'm also scouting for my UMH 68 tournament, which I've been talking about on social media and stuff, and seeing the players out there. And as part of this whole gamut, I was making phone calls on the way into Calgary, right? As I'm sure you've done as an ex-player. And so, Scott Townsend and Jeremy Stasiuk and Sean Byrne and some of these guys. And anyways, we got together for this lunch at Earl's. And anyway, Scott Townsend, who was an ex-buddy, a teammate of mine and a buddy of yours. And then your name came up, and now here we are, like 4 days later, talking on the phone. And I made a post today, Jarrett, and I maybe it's just because it's so fresh for me. Like, it was the picture of us from the lunch, and I was just kind of looking. I mean, it was such an awesome lunch. You know how it goes, right? You get together with old guys, and we were laughing and joking, and so looking at that picture, I'm like, you know what? Like, that's really like the best piece of hockey. I mean, of all the stuff, and we want to score the goals and we want to get to these places, but like it's the teammates and like the relationships that just outlast everything, and is really the special piece of that. Is that something you can agree with me on there?
Yeah, 100%. It's funny because we played against each other, 30 years ago, and all of a sudden in a month's time, your name comes across my desk twice. One, actually, my sister in Vernon, she goes, "Oh, I think I'm sitting by your buddy Jason Podollan," and I go, "Wait, we were buddies. I think when I was in Kamloops and he was in Spokane, we were never buddies, but through buddies, like you mentioned a lot of names, you become buddies. You just know guys, and you mentioned Scott Townsend's funny. He's the dentist. We played together. Well, we played against each other in Bantam. We played together at the University of Calgary, and he's the dentist for the Flames now, and I see him all the time, and just, different guys you've played against over the years. And for every kind of superstar you can name 10 more guys that were just great guys. You have good memories, lots of laughs. And like you said, it's just riding the buses and having lunch with guys 30 years later. It's like a time warp. It's like it happened yesterday. It's like, what? Did I just turn 50?
It totally. I mean, you know what? And it's like that's actually accurate. It was 30 years ago, like 1994. Like we were there, and
Yeah,
it's not like I haven't seen them since. Like we have, whatever bumped elbows or whatever. But it was just like yesterday, and um, God, like it was, and I mean, you even talked about the fraternity of just being a hockey player. Like for you and I to be uh as comfortable as we are just shooting the shit together, right?
yeah,
Never really have had a conversation before, but been part of that same ecosystem, that
yeah,
same environment. And I don't know, I don't know what it is about that, but there's some type of network that's like unspoken that it just seems easy,
yeah.
to
It's
me.
it's funny you say that because it's and another guy that you play with, Brian McCabe. I didn't know him, but we had some wars against these guys. But he's friends with Scott Townsend, friends with this player, and all of a sudden now he's in the business and we deal with each other. We talk all the time, and it's we never grew up together. We never. It's like you said, it's a fraternity. It kind of everybody takes care of each other, and you've seen it when a guy gets traded to a room. There's always 4 or 5 guys that come up right away and just makes you feel comfortable. And then after that first game, now you've got 22 best buddies, and
Yeah.
it's I'm glad that it's been passed down to the generations because you see the young kids and how they operate, and they're all hanging out together and playing and on the outdoor rinks, and it's in the dressing room it's fun.
Yeah, it is. It's a special piece of it. And I mean, we haven't talked much about what I do, and we're going to talk about what you do. But like with me working with players and, players with big goals and big dreams and want to get to where they want to go. I think a lot of what we do probably overlaps in some ways. Uh, but it can feel like it's a bit of a solo mission at times, like trying to get somewhere, that you're climbing this mountain. And just again looking at that picture, I'm like, holy crap, like you can't treat it like that, because the guys that you're there with you kind of chasing that same dream, those are your greatest supporters at the end of the day. And those people are real special. And we can't miss the forest through the trees, as you say, right? Like that's
Yeah,
really the special piece of it, I think.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And now I think with social media too, everybody is the world is smaller. Everybody's drawn together, everybody knows who's who, and this player did this player did that. And it's funny, they all kind of support each other and they all know each other. So
Yeah.
a player goes to camp or gets traded, and all of a sudden, oh, I know this player, or he's friends with him. And so yeah, it's a small world. Great.
A little bit off topic, but it's a little bit of a rabbit hole. Like I was thinking, and we were discussing it actually at that lunch, kind of like what made it special or whatever. We're talking about the bus trips even, and comparing. You're talking about comparing generations, and you're saying like a lot of it is the same. And we were thinking about, like there was maybe a TV on the bus when we were going on these 8-hour trips, like sometimes, and most of the time we weren't allowed to watch any videos or whatever. There was no, I think we had Walkmans or whatever, so you could listen to music if you wanted to. But other than that, you were like reading a book or playing cards or talking with your teammates. And it seems like maybe that aspect of like that kind of that camaraderie, almost forced camaraderie in some scenarios, I think is a pretty big factor. Do you think that was a big factor? Like the amount of actual time that we were spent together in front of each other where we had to, make fun of each other or have conversations or whatever else we would be doing?
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I think I was watching a TikTok the other day, and the Regina Patch said it went through the different guys, and it's like, oh, the guy with the music, oh, the guy with the TV, oh, the card playing guys. Well, that stuff was going on back then. I mean, we had a few guys just had Game Boys, just got introduced, and Walkmans and whatnot. And now I think it's different. Now, the fact you can kind of get away if you wanted to, do your homework, or if you wanted to, talk to your parents, or you wanted to watch a movie on your own, you can make the bus as big as you want, or you can narrow it down. Back in then, it's like if Dumb and Dumber was on, you were watching it.
And it was on.
Yeah, and just the way you make fun of each other, and like it's funny. I like to see that it hasn't changed that much. Guys are still ribbing each other, and guys communicate the same, and yeah, it's kind of funny.
Are you hearing a bit of a buzz on there right now?
Yeah. What are the odds? This snow driver comes, and the snow has been here for 3 days, and the one minute I get on this, he comes and decides to blow my driveway off. You can cut that off, right?
I don't know if I can do anything about the sound, to be honest. That's
I've been
so
waiting
funny.
for this guy to come for a week, and now he's like Wow. Okay.
That's okay. Does he have a lot of driveway there to do?
No, he's done.
Oh, he's done. Okay, sweet. That's
Yeah.
funny. The other thing I was thinking of, and again, I'm a bit of a dinosaur when it comes to this because not that I was, I mean, I was tough enough, but I wasn't a tough guy, as you know. We played against each other, right? Like, but everyone in that era was tough enough, like tough enough to play in that era. And I akin it to like, I've never even been remotely close to a war. I have no idea what that would be like. But that type of camaraderie through a dressing room like seems relevant because there was battles. Like there's definitely battles that we were going. And I was just like reflecting on that, like those relationships of like, why is it so tight? You know what I mean? Like why is it so tight? And I thought that maybe that was part of it. Like, do you think that is part of it? Not that these guys don't go to battle now, like they do, but like the actual idea that these guys really had to have your back. Like you had to have trust in that room.
Oh yeah. I mean, growing up in Cranbrook, British Columbia, I'd go down and watch the Spokane Chiefs, and Link Gates was playing. I mean, you know him, and he's legendary. And, I grew up with Scott Niedermayer, and we're watching the game going, we could maybe play in this league. Like, I don't have the skill of Scott Niedermayer. I'm going to take boxing lessons right now. So when I got back to Cranbrook, I mean, my dad had me in some boxing lessons. And I mean, it was just more to defend yourself. And, I wasn't, an enforcer or, but at 6'1", 6'2", 190 pounds, you're a middleweight, and if somebody touches Scott Niedermayer or any of these guys, you got to get in there. And well, next thing you know, I'm my second year in the league, I have 20 fights. I wasn't a fighter. I wasn't tough. You just had to do it.
Yeah.
And I remember even as a 16-year-old going in the league and the coach saying, hey, I know you're not scared to fight, but it's probably time to get in one. I'm like, this is game 4. I mean, my first exhibition game was a team-on-team brawl in Fernie.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's a different era. I think it's changed for the better. Yeah. I think the kids nowadays are equally tough, but in a different kind of toughness way. They can have that battle and freedom and without having to get in a fight,
Yeah.
I think, things have changed so much. You mentioned the word dinosaur, but I mean, the bottom line is in hockey and life, I guess, is that you just got to outwork the other guy.
Yeah.
So
in whatever capacity that is, right? Yeah, for sure. I just did like, well, I shouldn't say I like at the time you didn't even really know, but like even Towner was saying, like Scott Townsend was like, I just wasn't competitive enough to be a hockey player. Like, I mean, completely self-admitted, right? He's like, it was hard. I mean, he's like, it was like to take that cross check, to go to the net, to go to that hard area, like night in and night out for 72 games. In junior, I'm talking now, and not pro, obviously there was more. Like there took a level of mental toughness there that I think we can be proud of to say that we could do it,
Yeah, and I think he kind of plays it down a bit. I mean, he still had, he was still a 100-point guy in the WHL. You have to be competitive to do that, as much as he might not think he is. And I mean, he's, successful dentist. I mean, some guys are intrinsically competitive. Other guys just kind of do it quietly. And next thing you know, they're successful because, they're competitive on the inside.
Yeah, how does that work? I mean, I want to get into, well, there's 2 segues there. You talked about Scott Niedermayer. We should talk about the Blazers, but I like that idea of you just mentioning how different people show up, and in what you do being an agent. I know there's a big business side of being the agent and the contract and the negotiations and all that stuff. But I imagine in this day and age that being an agent, is understanding your people and also how to support them, and the difference between the guy who's quiet, maybe the guy that needs some more touches, maybe somebody who's a little more independent. How big of a piece is that for you in what you're doing right now?
Yeah, it's a huge piece. We try not to. I mean, these kids now, they're so smart. Like they've had private coaches, they've had private lessons. They're all skilled. They're all, I mean, back in the day, you do a week of hockey school in the summer. If you did 2 weeks, you'd be worried about getting burnt out. Now, I mean, it's almost a year-long sport. So these kids have knowledge. They have skill. And then you've got to work with them. You got to work with the parents and talk about what's the right path. And then, the bottom line is just starting to get serious about your job, being professional, being, what works for this player might not work for that player. And, I think coaches are smart that way too. I mean, I think back in the day, they blanketed it and you did one way. Now I think coaches have to, be a bit of psychology 101, what works for this player doesn't work for this player.
Yeah.
And, even when, as an agent or advisor, when I'm talking to kids, I definitely have to approach things differently. You have to take in perspective, what kind of coach does he have? What are his parents like? Does he need a support role more, or does he need a positive, or is he getting a little cushion? Is he going to need a kick in the ass? Because, you played in the American League, which 90%, if you go into hockey, have to play. The 0.01% go right to the NHL, but the other guys have to spend time in Springfield and Lehigh Valley and Manchester and all these towns. Like, what happens then? That's when the mental side has to get, has to kick in, and it has to start at a young age too. Like, parents tell their kids, and you've heard it before, don't get, some of the best advice is, don't get too high, don't get too low. You've heard that a lot, and it gets back to that. You just can't.
Yeah. What I love some of the sayings. Like, that's a totally great one. Where I find that it kind of gets lost, or at least maybe why I have a job, is like, how do you execute that? Like, how does a young player who's 18 years old listening to that, and maybe trying to do that, accomplish that? You know what I mean? Like, is that something that you guys get into, like the specifics, or is that more sports psychology-esque?
There are some specifics. Well, we have a camp in Calgary, and we touch on it and talk about it, but it's up to the player. Parents are a great resource as well. So when we manage a player, if you get to that level, if you're that 0.1% or you're showing potential, now it's a business more so than it was in the old days. It's like, you've got the player who's the entity, and you have to work as a team with the parents and the agent. So we have to, and we don't say, oh, I work for you. Like, we work together to get, the player to the next level. So we have to make sure when we get a client at a young age, the parents have to be on board with us, and vice versa, because they know little Johnny better than we do. So he's going to listen to the parents. If he gets benched or gets a suspension, and now the parents are saying, oh, that's the ref screwed him, this and that. And we're going, no, you're going to have to learn from this mistake. And we're telling, probably they're going to listen to the parents and decide we're getting screwed here. Yeah. So we'll call, even at the NHL level, I've talked to parents, and it's like, are you sending this player the right this message? And the parents will say to me, I'm just telling them this, just keep working, play hard. I was like, okay, I'm going to send them that same message. So it has to be the same message. And getting down to the specifics and the mental side, it's tough, because nowadays kids kind of know where they're going to play before the season starts a lot, right? Like, especially with academy hockey, you've signed up, you've paid, you're playing at OHA or Edge or Burnaby Winter Club. So sometimes that desperation gets lost,
right?
Sometimes. So I think parents have to, just keep parenting, let them fail, let them just be supportive, especially get to the higher levels. All you can really say is, keep working hard, stay positive, things will change, and don't get too high, don't get too low. Things that but these kids, it's tough, and there's an older agent, we bought his company years ago in 2005, and he used to say, you can't put an old man's head on a young person's body, right? And these young guys, they're going to have to go through a lot of that themselves. Yeah. In other words, they're going to have to get that experience, play a lot, and then get on autopilot a little bit in that regard, know what works, what doesn't, and learn a lot through playing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, man, it's interesting you talk about that whole people know where they're playing, right? Like, it is so, like, sometimes the first time they try out for anything is like an NHL team now. Like, right. Really, like, everything's been paved that way. And Cutter Gauthier came to mind, and I have no idea. I'm not in Cutter Gauthier's mind, and I don't even know if you represent him or not. I didn't do that work, but like, it seemed like from the outside looking in that Philadelphia didn't say, when you sign, you're going to come here. It sounded like he said, when you sign, you're going to make the team, or need to make the team, and that was maybe a bit of a problem for him. Mm-hmm. And he didn't want to go down that route. It's just kind of interesting, because it has been the environment has been a bit more secure, but as you know, like, there's nothing secure about it at all. At least not until you get these no trade moves, which is well far into your career. So for these young guys, it's a pretty tough apple to bite into sometimes.
Yeah, no, that's 100%. And it's the funniest story I tell at our camp. We represented Shea Weber, and during that time of free agency, and 5-6 years ago, you were allowed to go do that week and spend time going to different teams and going to different organizations and seeing what they're about and see what the coach is about, what management's like, what ownership's like, what the city's like, what the team's like. So you could go and do that before July 1st. So we had the opportunity to go visit Mr. and Mrs. Ilitch, one of the first American billionaires, at their house. And, Mr. Ilitch, so Shea and I pulled up to the house, and it's a huge place out in outskirts of Detroit, and there's surprisingly not a fence around it, but it was just a big, nice house. And, it was a breakfast meeting, actually. A lot of meetings, we'd have dinner meetings or, in a private room. We went to his house. It was in the morning. He had a chef there, and he came and he answered the door in his suit. And then Mrs. Ilitch, who's tiny, she's about 5 feet tall.
Yeah. She
looked at Shea, and she kind of was like, wow, and just like literally patted him down like a quarter horse. And was like, I'm like, and so we had a really nice breakfast. And I said to Mrs. Ilitch, because the Red Wings are one of the storied franchises, successful. And I said, what's been the secret of your players in the Detroit Red Wings? And she just said, we look for everydayers. And I kind of paused, and she goes, we want guys that just show up to work every day. She goes, Steve Yzerman, everydayer. Chris Chelios, everydayer. Darren McCarty, everydayer. He went on, we had Darren Helm at the time, and he goes, Darren Helm is an everydayer. And we want a guy like Shea Weber because he's an everydayer. And then later I heard through some of the players that she would have a party once a year, and be sipping on her bourbon and having a cigarette, and it'd be midnight, and the guys are kind of, she'd get up to go to the bathroom, they'd get up, okay, well, we better go. And she's like, sit down. And they'd be like, okay. And then at 6:30 in the morning, next day, she was first in the office. So I'm going, there's a novel idea, show up to work every day. And I tell that at our camp every year.
Yeah.
It's not a big secret. Come to work every day. Show up early. It's no different than the person that works at IBM or like any walk of life. Those people are successful, and it's no different in hockey. There's no secret sauce. There's good coaches, and now with academies, they get there early, they get to practice, they have good coaching, they can shoot later, they can be in the weight room. If you do that, you do it every day, you're going to have success. And so I thought that was a fun side story with the
that's fantastic. So many connections there too. Like one, Darren Helm. So I went to Japan, came back, and kind of had like a renewed lease on my hockey life. I'm like, you know what? I should still play. And I still believe that I could play in the NHL. This was at 30. Happened to know Ken Holland. Mike Babcock was coaching Detroit at the time, and who I played for, as you know, in Spokane. So like there was a connection there. And they said, yeah, come try out. Like they had a couple spots were actually available on the Red Wings roster. And so went to Michigan there for camp, and Darren Helm was my centerman, like at camp. So, and that was his rookie camp. So they had just drafted him, and I think he was a first rounder. And so for majority of camp, I was his right winger. And anyways, he went on obviously and still is having a phenomenal career. And it was fun to be a part of that. So interesting connection there. But I also tell the story of being at that camp quite often when I'm, wherever doing my keynotes or whatever about the culture of that team. And I mean, I love what they're saying there with the everydayers. I mean, I think that is a really good indication of what was going on there, like the Thomas Holmstroms and the Datsyuks and the Hasiks and the Linds, like all the stars were guys that would just keep showing up. And it was also just a really comfortable place to be. Like it was, guys inviting you to golf, go to a restaurant, guys that were like trying to help you in practice to be better, like not trying to make you not make the team. Like they were comfortable enough to try and make everyone be their best, and I think when I think about Darren Helm, and boy, you could probably speak to this obviously better than anyone, but like to be a young guy in that environment where like the veterans are legitimately pulling for you and you feel a part of it, like, wow, is that a difference maker? And not every NHL team is like that. I can tell you that right now.
No, and that speaks a lot to the culture in Detroit. And you can see with Yzerman being back there, how they're making those changes and how they are, and they're looking for those everyday players and just those guys that'll come and work their ass off every day.
Yeah.
Actually, funny story about Darren Helm. So, back to some connections with Scott Townsend and all these guys. So when I was younger, Willie Desjardins had recruited me to come to the University of Calgary, and later on he took off to Japan. And then, as you know, he was coaching the Tigers. So I think it was my first or second year in business in 2000. We started the company in 2001. So, in those days, it's like, we would say we just going to, our motto was like, be in back pockets, get to the rink. Like, nothing bad can happen going to the rink. So it was a Wednesday night. I didn't have any players on the Tigers. I didn't have, I think they were playing Swift Current. It was a Wednesday snowy night. I just decided from Calgary, I drove down to Medicine Hat, and I just got there early. I watched warm up, and I see this guy just buzzing. I mean, this kid was flying. And I look, and it's Helm, and I go, I haven't heard of this kid, and, I got to watch him. And I just noticed he's the hardest working guy. He was the fastest guy, and he's on the fourth line. And I go to Willie, so I'm this, wow, like this kid, I mean, I got to go talk to Willie about this. And Willie goes, you know what? He's like from St. Andrews, Manitoba. He's just a hardworking guy. He'll be on my first line by Christmas. I was like, what? He goes, yeah. Do you want to meet his parents? And I go, I'd love to meet his parents. So after the game, Willie introduces me to Mr. and Mrs. Helm. And I said, I see Darren. I see a lot of potential. We're starting off this company. We'd like to work with him. And the parents were just like, well, this is Darren's career. Why don't you take him for dinner and see if this is a fit? And I'm like, wait, what? Okay. So you take him up to Earl's, the Earl's in Medicine Hat. He's had a few dinners there, I'm sure, as every Western League guy has over the years. And I'm sitting there talking with Darren. He's quiet. And Daryl Sutter walks in. And he says, oh, hey, Jared, how you doing? And we start chatting. I introduced him to Darren Helm. Daryl Sutter leaves. I go, you know who that is? He goes, no, I have no idea. I was like, that's the head coach of the Calgary Flames and the general manager of the Flames. He's like, oh, I didn't know that. And to this day, NHL guys make fun of Helmer of how little he knows about the NHL. He's got his wife, his 3 daughters, and he goes to the rink because if it's beer league, he couldn't name 10 NHL players. So anyways, getting back, he just kept improving. And honestly, he was a 5th round draft pick into the NHL. So he just kept steadily improving. And, Mike Babcock, he used to show videos of not just Helmer's second efforts on pucks, but his third and fourth efforts. He used to show this penalty kill of Helm and, the third effort, the fourth effort, never mind second effort. He would be going in the third effort, the fourth effort. So I think Darren Helm is probably one of Willie's all-time favorite players, and we keep in touch. I mean, I remember he had a great career in Detroit, and Steve Yzerman said, hey, he really wants to win. Helmer won the Stanley Cup in his first year, and when you're young, you think you're going to win it again, and so they traded from the Colorado Avalanche, and when they won the Stanley Cup, it was one of the most rewarding moments for me because, as agents, we don't get thank you cards and like maybe his coaches do, but, they get the contract and that. But I called Darren just when they won the Stanley Cup. They were in the dressing room. I was going to wait for it to go to voicemail, and he answered the phone in the dressing room, and he's like, thanks for like getting me here, and I didn't think this was going to happen, and we just kind of had that moment, and I was like, that is one of the most rewarding moments I've ever had, is to see Helmer, who comes from nowhere, winning Stanley Cups with the Detroit Red Wings and again with the Colorado Avalanche. And what was his secret? Hard work. Like, I'd ask him what he would do in his summer training. He'd go, well, I'd go to my cabin and I'd walk outside and run as fast as I can that way for about 45 minutes to an hour, and then run 45 minutes to an hour back. I mean, this guy is a beauty. Kevin Epp, my business partner, and I were in Vegas one time, and he, probably 5th or 6th year pro. He had money. He shows up in Vegas to meet his buddies from Medicine Hat. Well, they didn't have a hotel booked. They didn't have any shows booked. They had no nightclubs booked. I was like, Helmer, this isn't St. Andrews, Manitoba anymore. You can't just go around Vegas without any hookups. But that's just the way Helmer is, and he'll never change. And he's definitely one of my favorite guys over the
That's
years.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad we brought him up. I mean, 800 game NHL career from a fifth round pick. So that actually makes more sense, because why would they put a first rounder with me in their first training camp? So that's totally indicative. So a fifth rounder playing with me, and he went on to like what a career. And I love that you mentioned that, because for my audience and for my listeners, when I'm talking with players, one of the things we talk about again and again and again is something that I call it competitive spirit. And that idea is like, I think it's a little different than hard work. Like, I think hard work is kind of, most guys work hard at least to get it to a puck or into a battle, but it's like, what happens then? Like what happens in that moment? And that's where competitive spirit shows up, I think. And when you talk about the second, third, fourth, fifth efforts, like that's something that's noticeable by anyone, right? Like, it doesn't matter how great your hands are, or how hard you shoot a puck. Like, when you can impact every shift with that level of competitive spirit. And it's noticeable even at the NHL level. Like, I love that you're bringing that up. So like, imagine these junior guys coming up, or even these bantams now coming up, like to be able to exhibit that, like you are going to catch someone's eye. And it's a great thing to focus on, in my opinion, when it comes to their own personal development.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think people talk about that enough, maybe. Like, it's, you get back to some of those players that are smaller in the NHL to this day, but their compete level is off the charts, and the mental preparation. And I mean, even as these young guys, to play AAA hockey nowadays, I think it's different. I mean, when we played back in the day, you'd have 2 practices a week. These guys are on every day. Yeah. And so just for these kids to understand, like, you can improve so much in practice. Like, I was lucky when I was growing up, and my dad was a coach in Cranbrook and produced a lot of players. But let's get back to the practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice. Like, you keep going hard. I mean, even those teams in Kamloops, we had Darcy Tucker would be in your face every second. He'd be fighting guys, and I mean, Doan is the nicest guy there is, but I mean, he was like so intrinsically competitive. Niedermeyer, he was quietly competitive. He wasn't going to lose a battle to you ever. I mean, he didn't look like he was trying. It's just that he was better than everybody. But, so, I look at the coaches and how they push kids nowadays to you just got to, they're on the ice so much. But if kids nowadays can just have that mindset, is like, I'm not just going to show up to practice. I have to get 1% better. We talk about that at our camp at all, with our pro guys and our young guys here.
I'm going to take a short break from the discussion with Jarrett to tell you about the UMH68. So this is something that is consuming a lot of my time right now, not only during like the work days, but also on the weekends as I am tracking down and searching for the best players in British Columbia in the age group of 2010 and 2011. The UMH68 was something that was spawned last year. It was just sort of on a whim, to be completely honest. We were leaving a provincial camp, and I just thought that there was quite a few holes in what we were looking at and what we were just participated in. And I thought that, you know what, we need to bring the top players together for a development, educational, competitive showcase where these players can get together from all leagues, whether it be sanctioned or unsanctioned hockey, and give them a weekend to remember, where they can all play on different teams with different players, where they can have NHL alumni coaches or professional coaches in some cases be behind their bench, where they can be educated in workshops, and where they can get to meet each other and build these relationships and become better people, things that I'm super passionate about. And within the span of 30 days last year, from like this idea to do this, to identify these top players, to bring them together in to Vernon, British Columbia, we were able to go from ideation to execution, and it was an absolute fantastic event. The proof of concept is there. We had a blast hosting it, and the players had a blast being involved in it. It really was a player first experience and a parent first experience, much more than just playing hockey. And the hockey was competitive and awesome. So this year we're expanding. I'm doing the 2010s, minor bantams, and also major peewee. So that would be second year peewees. And And yeah, we're searching. You know, I've been watching tournaments. I've been going to games. I've been watching the stats sheets. I've been talking to managers and coaches and doing research and using my network within British Columbia to find who are the top players and get them the invites that they have deserved throughout this season, so we can host this tournament in June. So really excited about that. UMH 68 on my website. If you want to check underneath the showcases tab, there's also a Facebook page, UMH 68 Invitational, that is up on Facebook, and invitations have been rolling out. So it is quite a collection process to find, not only to identify the players, but to also find the emails of the parents. Much more difficult than you might expect. So a lot of work goes into that. And if you are somebody who has a player in British Columbia and would like to be added to the watch list, I think we do a really good job of identifying the players, but of course there are a lot of players playing hockey in a lot of different places, nooks and crannies. And if you want to be added to the watch list to be considered for the UMH 68 Invitational, then by all means, please submit your name to the watch list, and we will do our best to get out and have some eyes on you and be watching you. But yeah, and this is going to be expanding up my hockey faithful. Definitely, we're trying to move into Alberta and Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan potentially may still happen this year. We're going to see if we can pull that off. But this is going to be an growing, expanding franchise, which I'm really excited about. So definitely going to have some announcements on my social media channels. That's at Jason Podollan on Instagram. If you don't follow me already there, it's at Jason Podollan. We'll be talking about the UMH 68 and the invitees and who's already committed, as we have some commitments rolling in. And yeah, on my YouTube channel and also on the Facebook group there. So be watching out for the UMH 68. It's something that I'm super excited about, and being bigger, better, and badder than even last year was. So yeah, really, really excited. I just wanted to share that with you, that's in the cards for UMH, and we are expanding. So now let's get back to the podcast with Jarrett Bousquet.
Everybody, you watch these Hall of Fame speeches, and they think they're minor hockey coaches. They think that's the best coach they've ever had, not this coach or this coach. It's like, well, it's because he didn't know anything about hockey. Your trajectory was like this.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're thanking your minor hockey coach because he didn't know anything. We always say, like, at the young age, like, the best players not only are the best, hardest workers, but they're the best listeners.
Yeah.
Listen to your coaches, because you don't know anything about hockey yet. And if you can listen and learn and not be told 5 times, and you have the work ethic, and now you start putting things together, it gets exciting, then you have a prospect.
Yeah. There's some humility involved in that. I mean, you do say the best players. I think that can change, though, when the best players don't have the humility to listen, right? To be coachable. And I'm sure you've seen that too.
Well, the best players in the world are still coachable, but you better be right.
Yeah.
Like you can't mess around with, or gets back to sending the right message, and you got to be careful, because, like you said, it's like a fraternity. It's an old boys club. We joke around. It's like the mafia. You can't get a late start, and people that come in that are, late or not knowing what they're talking about get weeded out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And so
I agree.
I think, I was talking with Glenn Gulletson the other day in Edmonton, and he said exactly that. He's like, McDavid's very coachable, but you better be right. Like, you don't need to bring up certain points. He knows that. He knows more than anybody. He's the smartest player in the world, but he's for sure coachable.
Yeah. Yeah, no, good. So I'll just separate. I mean, the Sidney Crosbys, those guys get there. Even like Nate McKinnon, right? Like, coachable enough to change his mindset, his mental approach, to change his diet, right? Like, these guys are coachable, massively skilled players, but still have a team that they take advice from. I was more referring to, like, the top bantam player maybe right now, right?
Yeah.
That has got on size, has got on skill. There hasn't really been much adversity.
Yeah.
I mean, no one, and kind of feels like he's got the world by the tail, and maybe isn't coachable enough to continue to improve.
Right.
That's more where I was talking about, like, allowing that humility to come in at that age, so you can continue to get better.
Yeah. And that's a good point. Like, I think the best players and the best young guys are still very, like, they're open to, they might look at you and go, you don't know what you're talking about, but at least they're like, yes, sir. Okay. And, so yeah, the message, I guess, to that young bantam player is that you haven't. I mean, we had a coach out to our camp. I won't mention his name, but we have some superstar young guys. This is a few years ago, and we're, it's the middle of summer. We don't want to kill the guys, but they're floating around, not making passes. Well, he smashed his stick, brought them all in, because you guys are all top bantam picks. How many games have you played in the NHL? Let's raise our hands. Not one kid did, right? They go, so you don't know shit. Listen up. And I'm like, I'm going. This is our top clients, young guys. He just rips them. And they're going, who's this old guy? And it was a great message. It was pretty funny. But I think, those, you were there. You were a young superstar bantam. As soon as you get to, you went to Spokane, the culture in the dressing room, if you're cocky, arrogant, it gets nipped in the bud pretty quick.
Yeah, so. For sure. Yeah, a lot of times, the right room will take care of that for you, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Which is maybe a little. I mean, another tangent I don't want to go on, but some of these teams that are in the rebuilding phase in the NHL level, and they have all these young guys that are there, and there's not really an accountability from the hierarchy of some of these older players to keep them in line a little bit. Like, that's tough because that whole culture thing is fascinating to me, like watching how that develops and who is accountable to who and who really calls the shots. But anyway, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but I do want to touch on the everyday thing though. And isn't that because we were talking about mental toughness a little bit too. It like showing up every day is a mental toughness trait, isn't it?
It's crazy because 95% of these guys, if they're going to go on, will probably play in the American Hockey League.
Yeah,
that is you play there. It is tough. It's a grind. You play 3-on-3s. It's miserable. Some you're playing friends and family night. You might get a hat trick, not get called up. This player gets, and it gets back to control what you can control. Like I just remember talking with Nicholas Yarmelson in Rockford, and he's just, I mean, that guy he's a great defenseman. He's got 3 Stanley Cups, and he's like, Jarrett, it's such a grind every day. And I was like, well, just stick with it, kid. Like, he was young at that time. Just stick with it. Like, just getting back to control what you can, which is your work ethic. And so my business partner, Kevin Epp, and I went down there, and he was just playing the right way. He wasn't trying to dangle guys. He was playing physical. He's a defenseman, tight gap. Well, he's up, and then he carved a niche, blocking shots, getting pucks out, doing little things. I mean, he's over $5 million a year player, just playing the right way. But I remember him saying it's just such a mental grind. And, even dealing with our NHL guys right now, I mean, on TV, it looks like they're, everything's going great, but they have an everyday grind too, as you know. I mean, you played in the NHL and played a long time. Every day is just such a grind. And I'm shocked, even with superstar guys, you're talking to them and they're going, it's just tough. It's just a grind.
Well,
you have to focus.
High performance is a grind. I mean, to be perfectly honest, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, there is a grind associated with that. And the client call that I had before we were talking about the ability to overcome that. And whether it be the exterior environment, Jarrett, like the idea of 82 games, 72 games, the bus rides, the practices, like that aspect is a grind. But there's also the grind of like the guys in the minors of that mental voice, right? Like, mm-hmm. What are you doing this for? I mean, you're going to be here forever. You're not good enough. Why aren't you there already? Look at so-and-so, right? Like there's all that noise that can come internally. And the thing is, if you can keep showing up every day, despite that voice, and I think a lot of players think that, okay, if I have that voice, I must not be ready. But that voice exists for everybody. It's just, what do you do about it, right? Do you still keep showing up? Do you still keep going there to play the game? And I think that's an interesting way to think about mental toughness. A lot of times we don't think of it that way, but I love you bringing that up, that if you have the ability to get there and to put in the work, despite of all the reasons not to, I think you're doing a lot better than most.
Yeah, for sure. And I think when young guys, what we'll do is sit down with them and break the season up into, maybe 8-game segments or month-long segments. Let's get through September. Like September, you got to show up at camp there. You can't start slow. You got to start strong and finish stronger. And you got to go in there and get a job. That's number one. You got to get through exhibition game, 1 game at a time. By especially if you're a veteran, maybe you don't want to play exhibition game. You got to change your mindset to this helps my timing. Then you got to break in the month of September. Let's just go at 8 games. Let's just, and then you break it down and you set goals. And I think when younger kids set some goals, then it makes it a little bit easier. So in other words, if you have, these kids now, they're getting licenses and there's parties and the cars. Well, a young guy, he can look at my goals, set it out. Well, I have this goal. I want to play in the Western League at 16. Is going to this party helping me 2 nights before the game? Probably not. Let's make it simple.
Yeah.
And just kind of dumb it down a little bit. Keep things very, very simple. There's a lot of distractions now. So some of our guys, and it's not, I think back in our day, working with a sports psychologist, it wasn't a thing. Now, I bet you 90% work with a mental coach, a sports psychologist. I mean, if you look at some of the other sports, my daughter played high level, national level tennis and whatnot. It's like you go hit, then you go to fitness, and then you go to mental every day. I mean, golf and tennis are different, but actually I lived in Dallas for many years. One of the tennis coaches was working with some of the Dallas Stars players on, in tennis, after each point you reset, you clear it and then go. Much like in golf, every time you go to the tee box, you reset. Well, he was working with players to go to the bench, do a reset. Do you have a routine when you go to the bench? Am I going to flush that shift? What's my routine? Sip of water, go. Now I'm ready to go. Same with the mental side. It's pretty much everything. I mean, I think they used to say it's 90% mental. It's probably 99.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. That's for sure. What? So your experience in Kamloops. So I mean, so everyone listening, Jarrett played, I think 4 years there, maybe 5. Oh yeah, so 4. I got your hockey
4 years in Kamloops.
Yeah, 4 years in Kamloops, and that was during the glory days, essentially. I mean, especially toward Memorial Cups and great players, and you mentioned a few of them already. I mean, Shane Doan, Hall of Famer, and Darcy Tucker, who was a long-time player, Scott Niedermayer. I mean, great talent coming out of there, and championships and all the rest of it. What did that experience do for you? Provide you in what you're doing now? How do you think that helped shaped you as a person and how you're a better agent because of it?
I think it shaped me a lot. Moving away at 16 years old, I was lucky because, lucky and unlucky. Scott Niedermayer was the other 6-year-old defenseman, so unlucky on the ice time part as much. You're never going to play as much as him, but lucky in the sense, I had some great coaches. Ken Hitchcock was coaching. At the time, he was ahead of his time as far as, doing research and how we were coached, how we played, details, things I hadn't, thought or done with before. And then, for every star player you mentioned there's another 10, 15 guys that were just carrying the water the whole time that contributed to all those wins and but shaping me, the coaching, the bus, the travel, I always say when you come out of the Western Hockey League, you have a degree. So if you go on to school now, you get a degree, you have 2 degrees because you just learn how to be on time for buses, how to respect your elders, how to, when you don't want to play in Moose Jaw in minus 108 and the other guys, you don't want to carry the sticks up the crushed can there on that one side and getting shit kicked in Brandon at the end of a 2-week road swing. And it just prepares you. You're doing things you're not normal 16-year-olds are doing. You're away from home. You're with billets. Time management was a big thing. And then just the example of the other players and how they handled themselves. That we didn't, guys wanted to be players, guys took care of themselves. We didn't have we had a lot of great guys, good people on and off the ice. The culture in Kamloops in those days was, they were very strict on us. We weren't allowed to break curfew. They do the old call at 11 o'clock at night trick, and then you hang up, and then 5 minutes later they call back, oh, sorry, wrong number, just to make sure you didn't sneak out. And Ken Hitchcock was famous for going around and feeling the hoods of people's car. That story is true, to see if guys were out. And actually, even when we won the Memorial Cup, Tom Rennie was like, you underage guys, if we catch you with a beer, you won't be back. And it just made you think,
Right.
They were very strict on schooling. So, you heard back in those days that they didn't care that about school. Well, if I was 5 minutes late, 2 minutes late for class, they would have heard about it and I wouldn't practice. So everything was kind of buttoned up. And I was lucky that Scott Niedermayer was 16 going on 30 and much more mature than all of us, because he was an academic All-Canadian. So we're like, oh, this guy's getting straight A's. We better pay attention in school too.
Right.
But we had some smart guys, the 16-year-old kids there that Jeff Watchhorn's gone on to be a super successful guy. He was a straight A student. Dale Masson, God rest his soul. He was a straight A guy. Lance Johnson, I think, is a principal. So there I am, just trying to survive in hockey. I'm trying to get B's, never mind A's.
Yeah. You know what? That's a great point. I mean, even looking at life in that aspect, going back to my lunch, like Towner, team dentist, like Stasier is high up in the oil and gas. Same with Sean Byrne. Like a lot of guys maybe not ever got paid $1 to play hockey, but through that Western Hockey League education, as you call it, like you learn a lot. I mean, not only about life, but about yourself and what you're capable of, and the value of team. Like there's so many things that are just inherent in that journey that I think we kind of don't recognize it at the time, but it sure serves us well, moving forward.
Oh, 100%. I got one of my good friends in town, Darren Deschamps. He's a super successful guy in the oil and gas world. He played on that Memorial Cup team with Shea Weber and Josh Georges and Duncan Keith and those guys. He's a very successful guy, and he was a client of ours in the minors. But this whole Calgary is ran by ex-Western Hockey League guys. They're all hired on the spot with, even if they go to school or not. And the whole oil sector is ran by ex-WHL guys that can, return phone calls, show up on time, and work their ass off. Because, Paul Cruz here, who saved my life, by the way, against Kerry Toporowski. Thanks, Cruiser. He's a successful guy in the oil business here, ex-Calgary Flame. Just, I think all these guys, they learn those lessons at a young age. If you show up late to work, we'll replace you right now.
Yeah.
Good
for you. I mean, I love your origin story of, just starting out and making that trip down to Medicine Hat. I mean, I'd call that a hockey thing. I mean, obviously it exists outside of hockey, but that is something that we kind of learned, just from being a part of the process. And then you landed Helmer. At what point in your whole, in your origin story did the agent thing come to mind? And hey, this is something that I might be good at, or something that I should pursue?
Yeah, I was starting to think about it a little bit at 20, just because I had an agent, and he was a bigger guy at the time. And in those days, it was different. You didn't get an agent or representatives. I mean, we talk about it. Scott Niedermayer didn't get one agent talk to him until he put 65 points up in the Western League. Now we're getting them before the Bantam draft, because, there's a lot of advisors out there that, will talk to them at a young age. So I was thinking about it a little bit at 20. I think I was planning to do things a little bit differently. And then I got to give credit actually to my business partner, Kevin Epp. He was playing in that Western Pro League, and he was playing with the Phoenix Mustangs, and kind of going and learning about contracts in the afternoon at a law firm out of Phoenix. And then he called me up. I think we bumped into each other at the Stampede or something, and he said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. We should do it together. And I said, I'd love to. I think I just signed in Germany. So I was like, I'm going back for one more year, but let's keep in touch. So that year he played, was learning contracts. And then when I came back, so I was playing over in Germany, and I had an injury, and I was, when it's time, it's time. And I had a lot of interest. I finished my degree in kinesiology and took a lot of business courses. So I had a lot of other interests. I wasn't making any money in Germany playing hockey in those days. I mean, it was okay, but not something. I just went there to have an experience and have some fun. And so then we started Titan Sports in the spring of 2001. We had a lot of connections. We didn't actually, with the Niedermayer brothers, Scott and Rob, they knew we joined the business. We didn't want to pressure them, even though we grew up with those guys. And they kind of said, hey, if you're in this business in 3 years, come talk to us. And so it's 3-4 years later, then they jumped on board, and then things kind of snowballed from there. But what I really wanted to do is, and no, not having a go at my old agent, it's just the way things were. You would get guys that are ready to sign a pro contract, and then if they didn't, that's fine. That's what now it's, as we're getting them younger, it's about development and about a mentorship and keeping them on the right path. I think back in the day when you played and I played, the best kid at 11 and 12 was probably not the best kid at 13, not the best kid at 14, and for sure not at 15. Now you're seeing the best kids at 11 are the best kids at 12, are the best kids at 13. And it's because the parents now have these resources like yourself and like sports psychologists and coaches, and they pay a lot of money. So little Johnny's on this path and he's going to this academy. Well, in the summer, he's hanging around these 5 or 6 guys, and we're controlling it and we're paying for their summer training. I bet you probably didn't pay for a summer trainer. I didn't. I worked out with my buddy at the gym in Cranbrook. And so everything is like, you want to keep them on this trajectory. So yeah, the best kids are the best kids at 14, 15. So we recognizing that a little bit long ago, I think we were probably the first agency to start a development camp. In fact, I know we were, because it was just me running ice sessions for 8-10 guys. Then it got bigger, then word of mouth got, and then I was like, we got to hire coaches. So then we had a camp, a full on training camp, 4 or 5 days of like learning. And now it's so advanced, we kind of churns itself, but it, former teammate, Ryan Huska, who I played with in Kamloops, coach of the Flames, he's come out and talked about his experiences, and Willie Desjardins come out and Medicine Hat, he coached in Dallas. So we'll have different NHL coaches come in and talk to guys like, hey, if you're in this room with Titan Sports guys, you have a chance to play, and so you better be doing these things, and you better, it's up to you. I mean, even back in the day, my dad used to always say, if you're doing the work and he's not, when you meet, the likelihood of you winning is better than him if you're doing the work and he's not. And it gets back to that everyday thing. If you want to do the work, it's all there for you. I mean, parents now are paying for, trainers and all these kind of things. And now I think it's that what we're talking about is that mental. You need to be training your mind just as much or more than the private skills lesson.
Hey there, going to take a quick break from the discussion to remind you, Spotify listeners, that I just found out about this. They actually have a place to rate the podcast. So yeah, if you go into your app, it's like the 3 buttons below the title. You press on the three little dots. I shouldn't say 3 buttons, the 3 dots icon below the title on the far right of the screen, and up one of the options will be rate show, and it's just super easy. You don't even have to. There's no place to even leave comments. It's just 1 to 5 stars. So if you are a Spotify listener, that would be a great way to just say thanks and to support the show in an easy, zero cash way to support what we got going over here at Up My Hockey with the podcast. And of course, I know the majority of you listen on an Apple device, or at the Apple podcast place that I don't even know what it's called because I'm not an Apple user anymore. But that is kind of the traditional place where you can rate it 5 stars and where you can also leave some type of comment about the program. So yeah, I mean, if you are one of those people that has been a listener or listened to a couple episodes and hasn't done that, that's always a great way for me to say, or to say thank you, to the program and to the guests and to the time and effort that goes into producing these shows for you guys, that is hopefully supporting your hockey journey and is supporting your hockey player potentially getting where they want to go and achieve what they want to achieve. So just thought I would say that is one way to support the program. Another way to support the program is to go to the YouTube channel, which is Up My Hockey with Jason Podollan. Putting the podcast up there, the video version of it is being placed there. A lot of our my lessons from the pros, which is actually, for those of you who haven't seen those before, that is something that I do use with my private clients, where I will take pieces of the podcast and I will turn them into coaching moments or coaching videos called Lessons from the Pro. And there's been a lot of really positive feedback about those, that they have made actual differences for players and have helped them through different situations. So you can always check out YouTube for a great variety of lessons from the pro, for anything from mental toughness to to growth mindset to consistency to how to get out of a slump to how to become a better goal scorer. You name it, and I've probably done a video about it. So that's a good spot to check out if you're into it, and also to subscribe. That is a growing YouTube channel, getting close to 2,000 subscribers now, which is pretty cool. So yeah, by all means, if you just want to support and go press that subscribe button, I would be down with that. So thanks again for listening. Thanks for being here. Let's get you back to what you want to hear, which is my conversation with Jarrett Bousquet. Yeah, and I don't know why that is. I mean, I've tried to. I mean, it was super relevant, obviously in our age and in any era, it's relevant. But I think the way the system was set up, like almost everything was designed when I look back for us to fail. Right? You know what I mean? Like as a rookie to make the team, the way the veteran, like everything about the sport was not like, let's go, you're going to be great. It was like, how do we get him out of here? And if you were good enough to stick around, like mentally tough enough to handle whatever it was, the coach yelling at you, or the veterans being mad at you, or whatever the case may be, like you obviously had a passion for the sport. You obviously love what you did. You know what I mean? There was a lot of kind of precursors around success. Whereas now I don't see those hurdles there. Like this is my own little kind of personal thought process on it. Like I think it's set up to be more inclusive. It's set up not to be as challenging in a lot of ways, which I think is much better. But it also, when times do get tough and it does show up, they're not as used to dealing with it. I think. I don't think they're as equipped to deal with it, which is why I do think like the formal mental side, mentorship training, however you want to look at it, has a lot of relevance right now with today's player. Do you think there's any? Do I have any? Does my theory hold any water? Do you think?
It's a really good point, and I think part of that too is there's just more options now. Kids know more. Like. Yeah. If this player doesn't make any X, maybe he plays at edge. If he doesn't make it edge, maybe he plays North Stars. If he doesn't make North Stars, the Royals have a spot. So there's not that desperation. Like I know for me, growing up in Cranbrook, my dad would not drive me 15 minutes to Kimberley if I got cut from the team. I'd be playing for GC Electric in Cranbrook, right? So I was in the house leagues in my backyard, and I wouldn't get that
playing for the green team.
Yeah, not that nice Bantam Eagle jacket we had. So I was like, I better shoot pucks. Like I gotta do boxing lessons. I just remember being so ramped up and afraid to get cut. Like, what was I gonna do? There's no way my dad would drive me to Kimberley.
Yeah,
and so. I think now with all these different leagues popping up, there's more opportunities for guys. Like you probably were like thinking, I'm going to make Spokane and I don't really have a backup plan. Now if you don't make Kamloops, where are you going to go? Maybe I'll go to the BC Junior League. And if I don't make it there, maybe I can go to the Alberta Junior League, or maybe I should play U18 or so, like when you get back to war, back then, there were no peace times. The war was always on.
Yeah.
And, so now, the war's on, but it could be off. I could go fight for this team now too. And that's not a bad thing, to have options. It's just, I believe the cream will always rise to the crop, to the top. Like the guys that will do the extra and they'll want it, you can't fabricate it. I talked to an NHL scout, actually, Carter Sears. I ran into him at the Starbucks the other day, and he's like, you tell these kids if they want it, don't fake want it, really want it and do the work. And he's just going off, then he starts laughing. I mean, there's a guy that's, won Memorial Cup, he's been around forever.
Yeah.
So he's with the St. Louis Blues, but I was like, yes, Carter, I'll tell these guys, but you can't tell them too much. It's like they got figured out too.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. That's a great point. The authenticity. It's one thing I talk with my players about all the time is like, being, and I think that to me, now speaking about the different eras, I think that is much more welcome. Like the ability to be you in a locker room You know, like we were pretty vanilla, right? I mean, for the most of us, dressed the same, talk the same. Like there still is a little bit of that homogenization in the game now, but I do think that there's allowed to have different personalities. Like I think that's more embraced, and being authentic in that locker room and being authentically you and chasing that dream authentically to you, how you would chase it, I think is really, really important. You know, and that does help mental fitness. It helps mental health. It helps all these other things that some guys struggle with in our era. But that is something that I have noticed a difference, is that we're starting to open the doors a little bit to let people be people. And you must see that. I mean, the guys that most feel more comfortable in their own skin being themselves are the guys that usually have the most success too.
Right. Yeah. And it's a great point, because, you know, you want kids to be themselves. You want them to go in now. I think what can't be lost is the respect part. You know, you can't go into the locker room with being the loudest guy in the room. You can't be a rookie signing bonus, driving a nicer car than your captain. I mean, just these little, what do we say, kind of unwritten rules will still always be a rule in hockey.
Yeah. Like shooting the puck into an empty net with a slap shot.
You know, so we have Ridley Gregg, and he.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. And so Mark Gregg, who actually, maybe I wasn't the best player in the world, but one thing I could do is take a one-on-one. You know, that was kind of my thing, like one-on-one things. And my dad he still remembers the day Mark Gregg blew by me when he was 19 in the Hartford Whalers. I'm 16 years old, and whoa, just like saw this flash of red go by me. I'm like, whoa, do not look at the puck. I think from that point on, I never looked at the puck again. I just, you know, eyes up. Yeah. So, you know, years later, I kept in touch with Mark. So we represent Ridley. And, you know, there's a kid who's a stone cold assassin. Actually, Travis Hamonic, he's one of our players with the Senators. He goes, yeah, we voted Ridley to be the guy that most likely can survive in prison. And I go, oh, really? Why is that? And he goes, well, you don't know what he's going to do. He doesn't say too much. He's just an assassin. Like, and he, you know, hockey pedigree, learned from his dad. He listened to his dad, just like come to work every day, work your ass off. You know, he spent time in the minors, which has helped him. Yeah. So after he took the shot into the goal, I called him after, and he's like, you know, with the Toronto Maple Leafs, he goes, wow, did that feel good? He goes, I probably won't do it again, but that felt good. And people say, well, why didn't he protect himself? He did. He knew it was coming. He's got that hockey pedigree. He knew it was coming. He took it, and it's all over now. And what I love about it, actually, there was a girl on TikTok. I sent it to Ridley the other day. A girl did it. I don't know if it was at Michigan or somewhere. A girl did it, and it said, the caption, the Ridley Gregg. So I go, you got your own, you know, there's the Michigan now, and now there's the Ridley Gregg. Every kid is going to, you know, there's this egress flipping over the net, and now everybody's going to take a slap shot into the open net.
I love it.
To your point, it's you got to have the personality. You do have to, you know, Morgan Riley went after him, which, you know, that's part of the code. And Rid just said, I probably won't do it again, but felt pretty good.
That's interesting. So what that I mean, of course, I mean, that's why, and that's where that emotion came from for him to do that in the first place, right? I mean, of course. And maybe he did black out in that moment, right? To really know what the accountability would be to that, right? Like I could totally see that happening. But then he sounded like he owned it afterwards. It wasn't like he was really pointing fingers. Is that where he was? Like I was wondering with today's generational player, like I didn't know anything about him at all, right? From a personal standpoint, but it sounds like he's cut from, like, you know, a little bit of an old cloth. So, you know,
he is. He's got an edge. He always has. I mean, I remember him being suspended a couple times in Brandon with the Wheat Kings, and he's got a little bit of that old school edge to him. Yeah. And it's, you know, now we just call it compete. Like he's got that second effort, third effort, fourth effort. Like he'll just, and the thing is about him and with all these young guys, it's like now that he's in the NHL, he's not a kid who's going to relax. And I've talked to his dad about this. He goes, wait till he puts on 10, 15 more pounds. Like he had a huge summer last year of training, but I'm excited for him because when he can, you know, push guys off now and get that extra stride and break away from guys, he's going to be a dangerous player. He's going to have a long NHL career.
I love that perspective though, because when I first saw that, I honestly thought, and again, this was without knowing any history on him at all. Like I assumed, okay, this is a young player, grew up in an era that, didn't really require accountability. Oops, sorry, you just cut out there. You back?
Yeah.
Okay, so it didn't really acquire, this is me thinking, right? Accountability, like, hasn't been in a dust up, or a line brawl or whatever. And he was just kind of showboating it. It's kind of like my initial response to that. But it's actually the exact opposite. Like he's just like, he's kind of like heart in his sleeve, gladiator, like almost a little bit of a, like knew what he was doing, a little bit, right? And wanted to make a point. I think that's a wildly awesome perspective shift for me. And I think that makes it a lot more fun too.
Yeah. He's not a man of many words. And he kind of lets his playing do the talking, but he's like, oh, that felt good. He's like, basically kind of sick of hearing about, the Leafs. I mean, he's a senator, and, he's one of those guys that nobody really likes playing against him, but you want him on your team.
Yeah, I love that. Would you rather play with them? I interviewed David Quinn. I had the pleasure of interviewing David Quinn. It was actually a really cool interview for me because I had no connection to him at all. David Oliver was assistant coach with the Rangers at the time, and he hooked me up with the head coach of the New York Rangers. So had an amazing conversation with him. And one of the things he says, would you rather play with him or against him?
Yeah.
And that's how they value guys, right?
Yeah. I've known Quinny since his BU days there. And, obviously with the Rangers, we had Leah Sanderson and a few players there. So I've dealt with them, and now in San Jose. And it's good to get all these perspectives from different coaches. I don't get to deal with coaches that much, actually, except for the guys I've known or met throughout the years. And it's always good to chat with them and get their, perspective on things, for sure.
Right. Getting back to just sort of what you do and saying how it changed, and you're 100% right. I mean, that year that my 16-year-old year in Spokane, no one had talked to me until essentially, well, I think, maybe the end of the year. Like I ended up scoring 36 that 16-year-old year, and I think the phone kind of started to ring when that was happening, right? And my draft year was the next year, right? Like the next year you're getting drafted, and so definitely didn't have any conversations prior to that. And now, I mean, everyone is like, do you have an advisor? Do you have an agent? Sometimes parents kind of get a little bit all wrapped up in that process, and should they seek one, or should they just wait until someone seeks them out, or, how that works. So how, maybe just in general, and also maybe how you guys do it. Like you guys are trying to identify talent, I guess it sounds like, at a young age, and you will go and make some phone calls. And so maybe walk us through that, and maybe also about maybe for the parent that doesn't have anyone calling them, what should they do?
Right. So it's for us, I mean, to play in the NHL, you're looking at 0.01% of the population. So we're trying to find that gem. So Kevin, my partner's in Vancouver. We have Mickey DuPont here in Calgary. We have Aaron Rome out in Manitoba, former Canuck. And then we've got a couple guys in Sweden and one in Finland. And so we're always kind of on the lookout, and, we're talking to different people and whatnot. And then we'll go out and watch the player, like maybe 2-3 times. And, we're not scouts, so we don't get to see them as much as the WHL scouts do, or that. So there's a few scouts that I'll talk to who I've been in the business a long time, and I value their opinion, and then I'll just kind of watch and say, hey, that's a kid. I mean, it's tough for us because we're looking at kids at 14, 15, 16. NHL guys are wrong on 17-year-olds, so it's not a perfect science. So we try to just limit the risk. As a hardworking guy who may talk to their coaches, is he prepared to do? Is he a good kid? What kind of character is he? So and then when we get a player, then he kind of comes in our Titan Sports, family mentorship, where it's like we talked about, is a 3-pronged group with the player, the parent, and the advisors. And then we just try to keep them on that same path, and they've got to push. No one's going to put, your skates on for us. So we tell guys, it's not, I hear people say, oh, my agent got me this, my agent got me that. Well, they didn't. You did. We didn't put your skates on. It's how bad you want it. Are you going to be prepared to get on the ice early, stay late, do extra, be a good teammate? That'll all come out in the wash, as you know. So then we kind of limit the risk and try to go forward with those guys. For the parent or the player, because there's a lot of really good players that maybe aren't quite there, but they're really great players. So for those kids, well, first of all, everyone's starting to freak out about the Bandenbraff, right? And I'm telling guys, like, just, it does not matter about the band. I don't know if Darren Helm was even drafted, or, I mean, half our clientele were late round picks, NHL picks, some were first round picks, but we have a lot of late round guys. We have a lot of guys that went to camp as a free agent. We have other guys that are maybe not developed and want to go BC Junior League and go to college, take a little bit longer route. But for those next group of players, you don't really need to seek out an agency, because if you're seeking out an agent or a representative, you're not quite there yet. So I tell guys and families that are like, I talked to, a dad this morning, and his player is a very good player, but he's not a player that, maybe pro-wise. What's kind of good now is that there are some agencies that make a living they charge players now. And that can be valuable when you're navigating the waters through this way. What I'm not sure some agencies charge. You have to be very careful that they have the background of hockey and they have a resume, placed players, but they'll charge players just to help them navigate the AJ, the BC Junior League, and the USHL and whatnot. So that's it's kind of a good resource for that next group of players.
Right. Yeah.
So
I can see that. I mean, there's definitely value in that, because if you're not been around the game, and you're not really sure how the process works, and you need some advisor, just like you would do in any other business thing, right? You would get an advisor to help you out. I mean, I understand that there is value in that. Again, but you have to vet who it is you're talking to for sure, and what it is, the service they're providing. It sounds like that if you would seek out somebody at a younger age, that is not a pay situation. They're just in your umbrella. And is that how that works, or do I get that wrong?
We don't charge our clients. We charge if they make the NHL, and we charge a percentage off their NHL contracts. But like I said, there's a whole group of other players that are good, that are coming up to the ranks in different leagues, and opportunities for girls more and more every day. So I think the need for that advisor is probably, more and more now. I mean, I know for my daughter who played high-level tennis in the States, we had an advisor. I paid him. He was qualified. He coached at Baylor for 20 years. He got her to hit in Denver and in Colorado and just different places, just because I didn't, I don't want to be that parent making phone calls to places, because sometimes a parent might ask something and unwittingly just kind of piss the coach or GM off. They don't even know they're doing it. So, and when you get to our level, especially in the Western League, a GM might want to deal with 5 or 6 agents. They can't deal with 22 parents. So, but what I do know, and going through this myself a little bit with my son, Evan, 07, is that they'll find you. Scouts will find you. Teams will find you. I'm dad, so I'm not really his advisor per se, but, if you play good, he's gotten some letters, and the scouts will find you if you're doing your job.
Right. What would be, if you're reaching out to a 14-year-old, that's going to be a high pick, say, in the Bantam draft, and again, the way that your model works, you do want to invest wisely, because you are investing in that player, hoping that one day they're going to be a pro. And we both know how hard that's going to be. So you're going to be selective in what you're doing. Once they do come underneath that Titan Sports Management umbrella, how are you helping them in that scenario? Because I guess that is what you're helping them to be a player. I mean, that's in both of your people's best interests. So what would that look like?
Okay, so after the initial meeting, and they've decided to give us a handshake. You can't sign really anything, otherwise it can ruin some eligibility and whatnot. And so we'll go on a handshake, and right there and then we'll sit down with them and set some goals. And those goals, okay, if you're talking with us now, you want to play in the National Hockey League. Well, you can't just go and play in the National Hockey League. It's the little goals now that will add up to that big goal. So why do you play hockey? What are you going to do? Where do you want to end up? What are you going to do? What's it going to take to get there? What is your summer training going to look like? What's your weight by camp? What's your rest look like? So we'll set some goals with the guys, and that seems to make it a little bit clearer for them and keep them starting on that path. And you can get back to it. It's like, hey, well, you just did this. Like, is that helping your goal or is it hurting your goal? And it's usually pretty simple. Right. And after that, they'll go to our camp, and then we'll figure out where they're going to play the following year. And usually, if they're drafted in the Western Hockey League, sometimes the team might have something to say about that. We want them here, or, but some people don't have the resources, or some people don't have, not sure where they should go. So we'll maybe help them play for a year before they can get into the Western Hockey League. And then we really have to prepare them to get in the Western League, because, as you know, everybody's a superstar in Bantam, and now you're in the Western League and everybody's a superstar. Everybody's a type A personality. Every parent has put in time and effort and money and driving, and it's so competitive out there. Like, now what, you're just trying to survive as a 16-year-old now. Like,
that's when it gets real. Hey, I think for the first time it gets really real there. I think
it gets really real. It's like, now I'm away from home. I'm not sure my billets are good, and but you don't know what's going through a young guy's mind and how they're dealing with different things. So we tell the guys, like, we're not going to call you all the time. Like, in other words, if you get injured or you're sick or you're something, I want to know about it. And so I always say, like, men aren't great communicators to begin with. Like, if I text, another guy, you get one-word answers, or, this and that. Like, so we have to up our communication. And it starts with a young player. You got to reach out to us too. In other words, if I go to Medicine Hat and you're sick and you're not playing, and I don't know about this, I just wasted 3 hours driving there. So we put some onus back on those guys too. And they've been great. And I think what's actually way better now is things like, whether it's a Zoom call or a FaceTime or just a text. Sometimes players, they don't, especially at the pro level, they don't need to see you all the time. They want to hear from you. So, the other night I'm watching the Islander game and Ryan Pulak bombs went in. I might just fire him a text and say, "Hey, Puli, nice shot," or you have a banter, you comment on their story. So we can, you up your communication that way. But then when it gets real, it's obvious a phone call. If a player is going through a situation with a coach or a teammate or whatnot, then they know, they can call us,
That's a really important part of it, I think. And that's like when people ask me that question, so I like talking to you guys on the other end of it, parents, what to look for, or how do you judge? And, the business side can't be overlooked. Like you'd be negligent to overlook it, because that is a big piece. But I'm going to throw in a big but there. Like, the relationship side to me trumps it, I think. Unless we're talking about, I can't even say that, because I don't even know what the world is like for Connor McDavid. What he needs or what he doesn't need, or who could do his contract or who couldn't. I'm sure there's massive value there for the right player as well. But it's so hard to get there, like you said. And even once you're getting in, like that, the communication, the relationship side with whoever that is, that representative, and whatever way that player needs it, whether it's lots of touch points or a text, or whether it's a phone call or the ability to pick up or answer a call when somebody calls. I just think that there can't be enough value stated on that, because you need somebody. You need somebody that you feel like really has your back and gives a shit. And if you don't have that, it can be a pretty lonely world out there sometimes for some guys. So that's my advice, at least. I'm like, make sure you really enjoy the person's company. Like, make sure that you feel like you want to be around them. Make sure that conversation, when you have one, you usually feel good or enlightened or something after it. And they're going to answer the phone when you call. I'm like, those are really, really big things for me.
Yeah, 100%. And it's all relationship based. Especially like our company, we're kind of a mid-sized company. We don't want to be a really huge company. We're kind of a boutique, and we want our parents to call us or text us, our players, to be in constant communication with them, because, like I said, these guys are going to most end up in Lehigh Valley, and who's going to go to bat for you, who's going to work in. All these players, they're so smart. They know so much more, but they really want two things. They want your agent to work hard for you and be honest with you. So in other words, we don't just deliver the good news, because you have to help with, and you've seen how even in the American League or Western League or college, anything, that the coach doesn't have time to talk to 22 guys after games. Yeah. So now with Instat and, having Mickey DuPont is such a valuable thing, because he can break down video with guys. And if we see somebody struggling, then it's like we're on the phone to Mick, and he's like like hockey whisperer kind of guy. Like he breaks it down in a simple way to reach the players. And yeah, he's excellent.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Nicky was actually on the podcast, and I did some work with his oldest boy as well. So that was fun to
Yeah,
get to know them. And
yeah.
and obviously we know he has. Do you guys represent Landon by chance?
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Yeah. What a player
Good.
he looks like he's going to be, boy.
Yeah, good young player. Yeah, we've got some really good young guys coming up to the pipeline, and like I said, it's if we can get Mick working with a lot of these younger guys at younger ages, we never want to interfere with what the coach is saying or anything like that, but just how those intrinsic parts of the game, you can't get a late start on, you can't get in YouTube, you can't fake your way through it. Like he played, I think, 1,000 pro games, so he can talk to the kids at a young age and tell them just what they need to do. And every kid, there's only a couple, there's only a Connor Bedard or a Connor McDavid and or a Landon DuPont or this player, but the rest of the players, they add a lot of value on just doing that job as well. So you might not be the flashy guy. Like I was looking at some NHL guys that their points even in Bantam weren't even high, but they get the puck out. I mean, I had a coach, he was like, if I could have a defenseman do only one thing, it would be to get the puck out. Well, guys are making $1 million a year getting the puck out, getting it out on the wall, or whatever you do it really well, and be smart, and make those routine ground balls so that when it's time to get fancy and you have that skill, you can do it. But up until then, it's a pretty, keep it simple.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you bring that up, because there's always such a race, and everyone's so adamant about points, generally speaking. A vast majority of players get all wrapped up in that. But it's so like those, this is more for the audience than for you, Jarrett, but like the ability to play in a top 3 role in the American League is really, really tough. The ability to do it at the NHL level is even tougher, right? So who's going to fill all these other spots in the team, right? And how are they going to provide value? Because there is only one puck on the ice and there's only one power play, So it's interesting when you say that, because there is guys that were only ever third line guys in the Western League that are third line guys in the NHL, because they knew what that job was and they got really good at it and they were dependable, and that's what they were. There is obviously the guys that have figured it out, that were the 120 point guys in the WHL that come down and slot into a third line role because they figured it out. But that's a tough way to do it too, like to learn that side of the game and to be dependable and to fall in love with those areas of the game too. So there's a lot of ways to get to the, to get paid to play. And that's totally one of them. Like, understand what it is you're good at, own it, and just do it better than anybody else. And that's a really good way to get found.
Yeah, 100%. Like I see it when we talk about it, if you can make their call routine ground balls, hit to the shortstop, to the first base, 10 out of 10 times you're doing good. And Thomas Hickey's one of my players who's, played at the Edge, grew up in Calgary, was a top draft pick, but he found his way in the NHL. And we talked about $1 million plays. He made little $1 million plays all over the ice. And he talks about it now. He's the New York Islanders, play-by-play guy. And, coming around the net, snap to the wall, $1 million play. That winger, getting it out under heavy forecheck, that's $1 million play. And if you can keep doing it, I mean, Shea Weber always used to say, Josh Georges, those guys, they used to say, you can make a 10-foot pass 10 out of 10 times, you can play in the NHL. Not 9 times. 9 times you can't. Not 9.5. It's 10 out of 10 every time. I'm talking to some of the Ducks when Scott Niedermayer signed back in Anaheim back in the day. They're like, wow, he just makes our life easier because the puck is on the tape every time. It's not here. It's not back here. It's right. I don't even have to move my stick. So, we have that young Bowen Byram in Colorado, and he's, he gets to play and see how Cale Makar is, probably one of the best defensemen in the world. And every young D-man wants to watch Makar, but also watch Taze, watch Byram, and watch Gerard, watch those other guys. Like when they won the cup, all those guys, played different roles. And, especially with the salary cap now, you see it's such top end, such high end pay up. You have a first line guy making $12 million and the fourth line guy making $775 or $800. Well, they're still valuable. If you're going to win, that $800,000 player is very, very valuable.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time. And not only is he valuable, but he's valuable to himself, because if he gets out of that first deal, that's the deal. The second deal is the best deal.
Yeah. Like
right?
the second deal. Exactly. If you can, a real hockey player in the NHL is on their second contract. The first contract's an entry-level deal, but the second contract shows you can play in the NHL. You've played 82 game season. You've got probably over 100 games in the NHL. So now you're a full-timer.
Yeah.
So
that's the key. And then obviously you're stepping into that other aspect, and it's like, how do you make yourself relevant? And teams now more than ever, again, speaking not to you, but to everyone else, like they need the entry-level deals. Like you can be a young guy much easier than ever before, because they have to have them with the salary cap, right? You need guys that can play that are entry-level deals. So yeah, get your foot in the door, find a way to be relevant, and then just scrap tooth, claw, and nail to stick around. Take one more stop here, brief stop from the podcast, just to remind you that right now, as this video is being recorded, or this podcast is being released, it is end of February, early March, which is the perfect opportunity to start thinking about next hockey season. I know that sounds crazy, but if you are in some type of board member position, or if you are a president of an association, or if you are a manager of a team right now, and if your association does not have personal development or mindset development as a standard part of your organization, that is directly where Up My Hockey is going next year. I'm currently in discussions with 4 different associations and academies to see what that would look like for them. I have great packages from the U13, U15, U18 levels, competitive levels. That is my sweet spot with players and with teams. If you have a competitive team and they want to get better, and you want to get better, and you want to promote from within your organization to allow these players to become better humans and better players, to allow them to be able to handle their own problems and challenges, this is something you definitely want to explore. Win-win-win all the way around. And right now, I know a lot of people are in the planning phases of what next year will look like. So if that is something that you think sounds interesting, by all means, be progressive. Go to UMH or upmyhockey.com, get that contact form, and let me know that you're interested. We'll get on a call. I love having these exploratory phone calls and seeing if there is a good fit or not. So, next year, it's happening. I know. Let's get it happening now, so we don't get the rug pulled out from underneath us and lose track of time. And let's see where we can take this. All right. Now let's get back to the conversation with Jarrett Bousquet.
Well, Darcy Tucker was a great example of that. You played against him. Like, he came in Kamloops. He must have been 150 pounds, and I think, like, he showed up. It was a funny tux. I'll have to tell this story, but he had his bear sweater on. We all had suits, and he had it had a bear on it. And we're looking at him on the bus, and we're like, I think you got cut, Tux. I think we cut the team. And he was like, I'm getting on this bus, and I'm playing. And we're like, wow, okay. So in the 3 games and 3 nights he had 3 fights and like 4 goals, 1 face-offs. We're like, who is this little guy? He couldn't send him home. In practice, he was fighting guys. He's the most intense guy I've ever seen. And he just created value for himself. Same with Ryan Husky. I mean, when we won the Memorial Cup, I think he was one of our best centermen. It's like winning faceoffs. So maybe a superstar would come off the ice and Husky would go on because he would win a draw for us. So even at the AAA and bantam level, like, when we're watching players, and if you're skating down the wall and 2 guys are coming at you, and you can't chip it or make a smart play or the routine ball, like, we're going to X you out. If your coach wants you to get it behind the D and you can't do it, you can't play at the next level. I'm watching it. It happens, I guess, sometimes, but I'm watching a player the other day. We were kind of, having a real look at him, and he went to dump the puck and hit the ref right in the chest. We're going, all your job was to do. The job would have been done perfect if you would have done that little job right there. If you can't do that job, then you can't play power play. Then you can't play at the next level. You'll play at this level, fine. But to, hockey sense is now at an all-time high in a vogue. Like it's, it goes cyclical. Like, at times back in the day, they wanted size, when Eric Lindros was, and they drafted big D-man and then all of a sudden you win with smaller guys. Well, we can't win with small guys. We got to get heavier. We need more grit. We need, and people are giving me like talking about Ryan Reeves. Well, that's what Leafs need. They need that toughness, that grit. And, so now it's back to hockey sense. It's like you can pick these smart players out now fairly easy. And it's through making simple plays. Toe dragging a guy at the blue line with, a 1-on-3 is not a smart hockey play. I might look, wow, he was smart enough to recognize that there and he chipped it there. That's a good play. I'm going to watch him one more time. I don't care about points. We don't really care about the points. Actually, I was talking with a kid the other day, or a parent. He's like, oh, Johnny had more points last year. He's having a bad year this year. I was like, I had to stop. I go, wait, there's not one scout up here that knows what his points were last year. Everybody sees he's smart. He takes an extra second. He makes plays. He's grown. He's a young guy. I promise you, we can go talk to any of these scouts. They won't know what his points were last year. And probably most don't know what they are this year. It's like, will, this translate to the next level?
I love that. I love hearing that. I mean, it's one of those things where, you can kind of beat a drum as long as you want to beat a drum. And, the players have a hard time buying in because everyone wants to be recognized on the score sheet, and you try and get them to adapt, doing the little things. Well, what's the message, Jared, to a guy that's maybe, he's not, the phone's not ringing off the hook. Maybe, maybe he's not lighting the league up right now, but he's super dedicated. He's a good player. Like you said, he's one of those good players, maybe not a great player yet. What's your message to those guys out there?
Well, I think, getting back to the things you can control that don't take talent, right? Like paying attention, like be a great teammate, show up early, help with water bottles, do extra, shoot more. Coaches see it. Most coaches, if you ask for extra help, they'll give you extra help. Do extra. Like if you're on the ice 2 minutes, 5 minutes extra every day over a course of a week, you've got an extra half hour over the course of a year. You've got, just try to do extra, watch some hockey. Pick a good player that you like and kind of study and be a student of the game. But I think for these kids, and especially the younger kids, puberty changes them so much. And some guys have early birthdays, some guys have late birthdays. And I didn't mean like that players at 11 are the best players at 12. It's the likelihood, because those players are still pushing themselves and pushing. Well, if you're not there yet, keep pushing yourself too. Like do some extra work. Watch the game, because like I said, hockey sense, these scouts will find it if you have some hockey sense. And, if you know how to play hockey, they'll find you. And then you got to work on your skating. Like it's the name of the game, right? There's so many fast kids now. And back in the day, like, Paul Coffey, he could just skate better than everybody. And then, Scott Niedermayer, he could just skate better than everybody. Now there's maybe a few guys that can skate like that, but everybody's pretty good. There's not, 10, 15 years ago, there's fourth line guys that couldn't skate at all. Even the bigger guys can skate. So you got to just work on skating and just keep plugging away, showing up, being everydayer.
Yeah, I think that you bring up a couple interesting points there, like the psychology of sports, and even like the birth. You're talking about those early birthdays, and when you're talking about a 10-year-old, let's say, and you're born in January or you're born in December, that's a hell of a lot of development that you're missing out on chasing the guy who's the January birthday, and Malcolm Gladwell's done a ton of, there's a lot of research out there on this stuff too, but that older guy gets the better coaching, gets the better spots, gets more positive feedback, right? More probably interested in developing themselves, right? Putting more work in because they're getting this environment has been created for them. As opposed to the kid that's, not there yet. And the only real thing is he's just not physically as mature, right? Like he hasn't had the actual time.
Right.
So it does mellow itself out, of course, once you get into your 20s and stuff, but all through those like key development years, like these younger players are really chasing and really, quite honestly, at a disadvantage. And how do you look at that? And I think that it's not recognized enough in the scouting is why I'm kind of going there too, right? Like it's easy to fall in love with the big, strong guy. And sometimes younger guys are also big and strong, but they're maybe not quite mentally there yet. I'm just, how do you handle that landscape when it comes to birth year and just age in general?
Well, some of that Malcolm Gladwell has been debunked in the sense that when he did that study, they were, born in the first few months. But actually, some of the top superstars in the league have late birthdays. Now, if you do the work and you're a late birthday guy, so, if you're a late 06, you're really an 07. If you're in late 07, you're really an 08. If you can do the work, if you can make it up, at some point you will have to do extra. If you can catch those, if you're a late, say, if you're a late 07, if you can catch the 07s and stay ahead of the 08s, like they've shown in draft wise, like some of the super high end guys actually have late birthdays.
Yeah.
Like the Austin Matthews and these guys. So like when I talked about the Cremo rise to the top, it's you got to do that extra work. So sometimes, and if it is a maturity thing, if you can get it through your head to do that extra work and catch those guys, can actually be a bit of an advantage. But puberty, it takes a big thing, and some guys just don't grow. And when guys get a little extra shot of that man juice, now they can get lower, they get stronger, then they can put the weight on and whatnot. So
no, I love that. Yeah, I mean, if you can stick around at the party, right? I mean, that's really the thing for a lot of them, right? For as long as you can, and then take advantage and get caught up. I mean, there is the advantage of the NHL draft, and it's the only time where it becomes a full-on advantage of having the late birthdays. You get the extra year of junior, which can be amazing for a lot of guys, just with your minutes played and responsibilities and everything else, right?
Yeah.
Once you get in there, but yeah, it is. When you see the guys that are young and that are stars already, that's like when it becomes like really impressive to me. It's like, holy smokes, like these guys are really special and interesting to keep an eye on. My why I'm kind of I actually did a whole breakdown. You'll probably think of it. I like geeking out on stuff sometimes. And so like the last two Bantam drafts, I looked at everybody's birthday in the Bantam draft. I mean, just to see what it said. And I guess like if you were to think of it just in terms of like how people are born, like throughout the year in equal, right? So the draft you would think would be like a quarter of the first 3 months of the year, a quarter, and a quarter. Of course, it isn't that way. It turned out like the second and third quarters were roughly 25% of the draft. But the first quarter was more like 40% of the draft, and the last quarter, so the October, November, December birthdays were only represented like 9% representation, right?
Yeah.
Which in and of itself, I mean, not that there definitely can be high skill players coming from there. I mean, the Gavin McKennas of the world and the Austin Matthews and all these, there are players, but when you take that big picture, I mean, there's no way that a quarter of the draft isn't as skilled or wouldn't be as good of a hockey player just because of where they were born, right? Like that in of itself shows you that there's some error in what's going on, right?
Yeah, there is some for sure. Especially like at that younger age, like you said, because puberty takes a huge deal. Now if the Western League, they talked about this, is that, if the Western League draft was a year later, there'd be less mistakes. It would change, guys grow. Maybe that would, change things a lot, because as you get older, the birthday's not as big as significant, but definitely at the younger ages, it can be a disadvantage for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And it all depends on, there's the kids that grow an inch or 2 inches at 18 or whatever. And like, even like changing the draft year for Bantam a year wouldn't affect them either. But so there's no perfect scenario. I recognize that, but I think it is interesting when you can, as a scout, if I was one, like to put some type of consideration into that birth, like not just the birth year, but really how old is he? You know what I mean? Like how much room is there for him and how much runway might there be? Because I was just thinking with my own kid, if you pause the clock and let him play and develop for another 11 months and everyone else had to stay in the same spot, like, or the January birthdays, like watch out, it wouldn't even be close. You know, like,
but some scouts will look at that and go, okay, well, he's a late birthday. His upside is bigger. I don't care if he's good right now. We want him to be good at 19.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We want him to be, there's some coaches that two people are equal. They'll take the younger guy because at Christmas, he's going to be better. This guy might have been topped out. So it's all what you do. And, that January birthday that doesn't work very hard, he's going to get caught by that December 30th birthday if he's doing extra. So,
yeah, 100%. I love watching that stuff. I think it's fascinating and everyone has their different path. I mean, that's the end of the day. It's like, everyone has their path, and whatever that path is your path. You just got to own it. And getting caught up in that game, of like who's doing what and what, who's getting talked to, or who's had Jarrett Bousquet talk to them and who hasn't. You just got to buy into what you're doing and buy into being an everyday guy. And I think that's a really great lesson, because if you love it, at the end of the day, it'll take you wherever it needs to take you.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Anything that you think we should chat about that we haven't? Think we've covered it all?
I think so. I liked what you touched at the end. Everybody has a different path. If I talk to 30 NHL guys, they all had different paths. Everyone kind of looks at the top guys and what their path is, but my other 30 guys, like Darren Helm, will have a different story and path than Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Different path than Andre Burakovsky, with different path than Peyton Krebs or Bowen Byram. Like, there's no right path or secret formula or secret sauce. It's just getting focused and to the grind, and don't get caught up with what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, totally true. Though, you've mentioned it a few times, and it can become, lip service. But the part about controlling the controllables is like really understanding what that is and mastering that to the best of your own individual ability is like the only place to be and the only place to really invest, because as you know, like injuries, opportunity, like there's so many things that are out of your control for real good hockey players. You're just trying to increase your chances to be ready for whatever opportunity is there, right? And if you aren't checking some of those boxes, like you're just not giving yourself the best chance, and so it seems a little bit foolish, right? And I guess that's an awesome message maybe that we can leave on, because it is something that is much easier said than done. But if you can just keep your nose down and take care of what you can take care of, you can be proud at the end of the day. That's the other thing I like about that whole message, is like you can leave the game feeling like you did your part, and knowing that you didn't leave any stone unturned. And if you can do that, my goodness, you're going to be a great lawyer or doctor or agent or dentist or whatever it is that you want to do in your next life. And that hockey gave you whatever you could. And I think there's a no lose in that scenario.
100%. Yep. Take hockey as far as you can take it.
Yeah, take the hockey as far as you can take it. I love it. Well, thanks for your time. Thanks for sharing everything with us. Congratulations on all the success that you've had. I love those stories of guys starting with an idea and a dream and building it, and you guys have obviously done that. So great to see what you're doing out there, Jarrett. And I'm sure we'll stay in contact here. But I appreciate what you did for my listeners today.
For sure. Thanks for your time. Thanks for having me on. It was fun.
Awesome. All right. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sticking around to the end. I love the $1 million play piece. I think that is such great wisdom there. The idea of being really, really proud of a simple task. What might seem simple, I should say. What might seem not very glamorous, not very flashy, but as a defenseman can come around the net and find the center or the winger consistently on the tape. It's $1 million play. Do it 10 out of 10 times and you can play in the NHL. Like, that is really wild, because it actually is the truth. The fact that we are talking about players that can be a third line player at junior A, a third line player at college, a third line player in the AHL, a third line player in the NHL, that happens much more often than we realize, because we are so star focused. We are so highlight reel focused right now as a society, as the sports networks and what they show in YouTube and social media and everything. It's always these dazzle. But the truth of the matter is, coaches and GMs need players who are consistent and who can do the little things that allow teams to win hockey games. That's what they want. They want players that will help their odds of winning hockey games. And a defenseman that can get the puck out to a winger or to a centerman with control is somebody that can help you win hockey games. A winger who can get the puck off the wall and out into the neutral zone or to another player and have a clean zone exit is somebody that can help you win hockey games. Now, of course, people who get goals and assists and score 60 are people that can help you win hockey games too, but you don't have teams that are filled with 60 goal scorers. It just doesn't happen. So take pride in your execution wherever that may be. The details of the game matter, and if you get really great at them, somebody will pay you for it. That's pretty good. Someone will give you an education for it, right? Someone will give you a spot on a junior team for it. Really, really cool stuff. I love that takeaway. That was one of my favorites. I know there was a lot of others there, but yeah. And the other part I'm just going to add with is the idea that if you aren't one of these high-profile guys, that maybe your phone isn't ringing right now, that agents aren't trying to represent you, who cares? Just got to get better. That's the end of the story message. Whether you are somebody that the phone is ringing for, you got to get better. Or whether you're out there and the phone isn't ringing for you, you got to get better, right? So fall in love with the process, fall in love with your journey, fall in love with your development. And if you are playing because you want the phone to ring, that's your reason for playing, well, I'll tell you right now, you're playing for the wrong reasons. Fall in love with the sport, fall in love with your teammates, fall in love with the aspect of getting better in your development, and who the heck knows where that's going to take you. You're on your own journey, not somebody else's. Keep reminding yourself when you look in the mirror, did I get better or didn't I today? Is this what I want to do? Play hockey? And if I do want to play hockey, I need to improve. So get out there and get after it, play hard, and keep your head up. Till next time.